Richard Beevers, thank you for joining us and welcome to the Active Code podcast.
Thank you for having me, Luke.
It's great to have you with us. Would you be able to start by giving the listeners a bit of a background about your career so far?
Yeah, okay. So I went to business school at the end of the 70s. Followed that up with was quite unusual. I spent a year in Australia. It's almost compulsory now to do a walkabout, but it was quite a rare thing back in the day. And then I came and joined what again was called the milk round, and graduate jobs were a little bit easier to get hold of back in the 80s. And I joined a group called Jefferson Smurfit Group on a graduate program and stayed there for 4 years doing all kinds of different things in that empire. I then joined another big PLC called Hillsdown Holdings for a couple of years, where I was marketing manager of quite a big division. Then actually went back to Smurfit Group for a couple of 3 years and joined their management consultancy business, which was largely internal consultancy, helping out other group businesses. And then I struck out on my own, started my first business, again in management consultancy, which I developed a particular product for 16 to 18-year-olds through something called training credits. I won't go into detail of the product, but I actually ended up selling that business and that product to Capita Group, where I stayed for 5 or 6 years, running both their management consultancy and their property consultancy as part of the board there. The property consultancy was quite a big business, had 3,500 people, did some pretty impressive projects like engineering for the Wimbledon roof, engineering for Wembley Stadium, the project management for the new Wembley Stadium, some big marquee projects as well as more important projects like building hospitals and schools and things. And then about 15 years ago, I decided that I'd done my corporate bit and started off Customer Plus. That kind of takes us up to date, really, which is covers the last 15 years in 15 seconds.
Amazing. And for the listeners, again, would you be able to give a bit of insight into what Customer Plus does?
Yeah, we as a company, we help companies really improve customer experience. So we start off by finding out where they are now, which consultancy types come up with clever phrases like discovery. So where are we now? We then find out where our client wants to be and maybe where they can be based on our discovery, and that we call that design. And then we help them deliver, put their the design phase, which is their vision, their goals or objectives, into practice with delivery. And this could be redesigning processes, installing technology, training people. And we pick up just one of those things. For quite a lot of our clients, we do customer satisfaction surveys only. We may just do training for them. But with others, we do more jargon, a transformation program, which could involve all three over quite a long period of time.
Brilliant, amazing. And this podcast, as you know, is around physical activity and how that links in with leaders and leadership as well. Going back to your time in Australia, is that what prompted your interest in physical activity and sport, especially rugby, or was it before that point?
No, it's as a kid, really. I mean, it sort of loops around to what your business is all about, guys. But I always loved sport, really. And I'm not sure whether that was something innate or something a family influence. I really don't know. But I was one of those sort of kids out on the street playing football, cricket, anything. I remember going to junior school an hour early just so we could all play cricket in the playground, and we were just mad for it, really. And then this carried on, and things got a bit more serious at senior school, then at university and so on. So I just carried it on, and I was actually the university first 15 rugby captain. I didn't do cricket at university because of the pressure to cram for exams in the summer term. But yeah, I've always loved sport, really. Yeah.
And still engaged, Richard?
Yeah, at the grand old age of 62, I still get involved in quite a bit of sport, really. I do my best to go to the gym 2 or 3 times a week, kind of quite like cycling, tennis, bit of golf, but rugby is probably my continued passion, and I'm still known to turn out for 10 minutes here or there to some of the charity teams I'm involved with. I just kind of can't do 80 minutes now because too many orthopedic injuries, which is a kind of the downside of sport.
Just to confirm, Richard, I've never done 80 minutes of rugby at all. So to keep doing it, no, is fantastic.
Well, yeah, I stress 10 minutes now.
It's better than nothing. It's a way to look
Yeah,
at it.
true, yeah.
And what benefits have you, so from playing sport through school and then university, what benefits until this present day, what benefits is sport and physical activity bringing to you?
Well, I think that physical activities is very, very important. I mean, it's a cliche, isn't it? Healthy body, healthy mind. But I believe it's true. And foundation of a happy, successful life is built on good sleep, good exercise, good nutrition. And if you get those three things right, then you can do so much more. You're so much more productive, so much more energetic, much clearer in your thinking. So I think those things are important. So apart from the physical benefits of exercise, the team sports has given me a lot really. Teamship, camaraderie, respect, standing up for each other, and I sort of came back to rugby in my 40s playing for Derby veterans, and a lot of us had played at a pretty good level, and the stars collided, and there were about 20 of us in the squad, including a couple of former first-class players, a professional rugby league player. And around that dressing room, I kid you not, we had everything from a high court judge to an armed robber who was actually who'd done his time. He wasn't actually currently an armed robber, but all life is there, and there's no airs and graces. You kind of get on. You meet people from all walks of life, and you respect the opposition, and it just a lot of life lessons, really. A lot of life lessons.
Yeah, I think anyone that is in a team or has played sport at some point, you almost have that common ground that sport brings people together, whether it's sport or activity,
absolutely.
and even activity can bring people together. It's going for a walk in the park with a friend, but from a sports perspective, I guess that's where if we just go back, I'd say probably about 7 years was the first time we met, and I think sport straight away was a common ground for us. And customer journey mapping was mentioned, and something that I'll be completely honest, and you probably knew this at the time. I probably had a blank look on my face just to say, "What on earth is that? Why is this guy talking about?" But I'm glad I listened because it's had a transformational effect on our business, and I know Luke is extremely passionate about that since the work that we've done with you. But can we go back in time a little bit, and maybe some of the work where we did start working with Customer Plus and your team as to I guess the journey that we went on. So that very first meeting, kind of understanding what customer journey mapping is. We did customer surveys, but we didn't do net promoter score, and that again was kind of an alien word to me. I think it's probably more prevalent nowadays, but just for the listeners, I think it's probably really important because there's a lot of people just don't get it. They think they do, but they probably just don't. So can we just spend a little bit of time exploring that kind of the importance of the customer journey map?
Sure. Well, I think we probably go back one stage further than that and sort of define the importance of the customer experience. And customer experience is pretty much everything you do. It's everything. It's before you start working with customers. How do they find out about you? How do they engage with you? How do they get a quotation or a proposal or an estimate? It's when you start working with them all the way through service delivery to when maybe a particular service is finished and you not actively customers, or whether you've got a long-term relationship. So it's all those things. Now, customer journey mapping is one tool that you can use to improve that customer experience. And the metaphor, of course, is that the customer is taking a journey through your business. They're traveling through your business. And what it does is it defines all the touch points and how the customer navigates those touch points, importantly, through their eyes. And that's really what customer journey mapping is. So the particular interactions, which we call in the jargon moments of truth, where the customer makes a judgment. And it's like a moment of truth in life, really. Going back to the armed robber story, when the judge bangs down that hammer, guilty or not guilty. When you have a meal and you look at the dish, or you have that first taste, what's a moment of truth? So you identify the moments of truth and you plot how the customer navigates those. But the point is, you can actually manage the moments of truth actively and say, well, what will the customer get at this point? What will they get physically? How will they deal with it? But also, what will they get emotionally? How can we manage their emotions and actually evoke the desired emotion rather than let them down? So customer journey mapping is this idea of seeing it through the customer's eyes so that it's a seamless journey, because all too often in a business, we get tripped up when people cross departments or cross systems or cross processes. And of course, the customer's not interested in our processes. They're interested in their experience or their journey. So really, customer journey mapping is looking through the customer's eyes and making sure we do everything we can to make it as easy as possible and as pleasurable as possible for the customer to do business with us.
Awesome. Thank you. And can we keep that going, a bit of education for the listeners to talk now about that customer satisfaction survey and the importance of using that?
Yeah, I think it's quite a big issue, this one, because fundamentally it's important to find out how satisfied your customers are. There's a number of ways of doing this. But we need to get customer feedback to find out what the customer's view is. So to design customer satisfaction program, the first thing you do is identify the objectives. What is it we want to find out? And then you would work through a plan to find out what's the correct point to ask, what are the correct questions to ask, how will you analyze the survey, what will you do about it, how much is it going to cost, so on and so forth. But that is quite an important process, because it's not just any question, any time, all the time. Because I think as you intimated earlier, Paul, these sort of things are getting more commonplace now. There's a lot of survey fatigue, for example. If you know the answer to a question, it's probably not a good idea to ask. So if you start with the situation where actually being honest with ourselves, service isn't what it ought to be, maybe you shouldn't invest resources in improving that. You know it's not right, so let's work on improvements. But let's say your business is up and running, it's level, it's quite happy, then it's really important to identify any aspects you can improve. But also from the point of view of your staff, it's also important to identify things that are going really, really well. There's two main types of survey. One is called a relationship survey, where from time to time you go and ask your customers about the whole business. So you would say, taking everything into account over the last period of time, how satisfied are you with this aspect of the service? How satisfied are you with that aspect of the service? And so on and so forth. The transactional survey is you've just undertaken a particular course with us. How was it for you? Or how's it for your child? Or how's it for your student? So the relationship survey is looking back at the whole business over time, the whole interaction. The transactional survey is, how was that? Now, transactional surveys, I think, can be a little bit overdone at the moment. So people report with insurance companies or airlines that they're no sooner off the plane than they've got a survey in their on their phone. And it's kind of starts to interfere with the holiday experience, doesn't it? So that can be counterproductive. So it's really important to put business rules in place so that you don't ask too many people or you don't ask any person too many questions. It becomes counterproductive. Because one of the tenets of customer satisfaction surveying is that the surveying process should not impact the customer experience negatively. It should sort of sit quietly in the background. As far as the measures, the one that you mentioned earlier, Paul, Net Promoter Score, has become ubiquitous now. And it's an attempt to simplify, really. So a chap called Fred Reicheld in about 2003, something like that, developed this thing called the Net Promoter Score, and it asks. He did some research to find out which questions would be useful. He was interested in the economics of loyalty, because loyal customers are extremely profitable. They spend more over time because they keep coming back. They cost less to serve because they get to know your systems and processes. They pay a tiny bit more. They're not quite so price sensitive. And really importantly, they tell stacks of people, or when they're asked, they're proud to recommend you. Now, a 5% increase in loyalty can have a dramatic impact on the bottom line, depending on the economics of your business. But in software, it can increase profitability by as much as 50%. So he was really keen on saying, well, how do I identify which customers are going to be loyal and which customers are not likely to be loyal? Because I could do something about it before I realise they've voted with their feet or their wallets. So he tested loads of questions. How satisfied are you with Company X? Does Company X deserve your business? Is Company X best in class? And this question, how likely are you to recommend Company X? And over time, he tracked the behaviors and linked it back to these questions. And he found the best predictor of loyalty was what we now know as the Net Promoter Score question, which is on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being not at all likely and 10 being extremely likely. How likely are you to recommend Company X to friends, family, colleagues, peers, whichever the correct terminology is? So we've got, if someone says 9 or 10 out of 10, well, they are what we call promoters. They're loyal enthusiasts. They fuel growth. 7 or 8 we call passives. You're okay. You're fine. Or what my children will go, they're fine, no problem. But they're not absolute advocates, and they're vulnerable to competition. The 0 to 6 is a danger zone. We call them detractors. They really, really don't like you. They maybe don't want to work with you, and they'll leave when it's convenient. So this is quite complicated to explain verbally without charts and graphs and things. But you take the percentage of your sample who've given you 9 or 10, the promoters. You ignore, for the purposes of the calculation, the passives, and you subtract the detractors, the percentage of detractors, and you end up with what we call a net promoter score. So promoters net of detractors. The highest score you can get is plus 100 when all your survey customers give you promoter, 9 or 10. The lowest you can get is minus 100. And this is why it's not a percentage. The promoter score is a number between plus 100 and minus 100. So hopefully that's a reasonable explanation. I won't go on and allow you maybe to pick out the bits you think are relevant to your people.
Brilliant. Thank you, Richard. Just a very quick question on NPS, because there's some confusion on what is a positive or negative score, and the score of zeros brought up a bit with people we work with, whether that's good or bad. What would you say to that question?
Well, like many questions in business, the answer is it depends. There are a number of things here. The smaller your business, and I think you have quite a number of small businesses, it's easier to get a higher score because you're there, you're on it, you connect more connected to the customers. If you're a major high street bank where you have hundreds of thousands of customers, you've got a lot of complicated processes and systems, you might be saying no a lot. A 0 would be a great score. For your type of business, I don't think 0 is a good score. But the thing is not to get so bound up in the score itself and comparing it with other people. It's your improvement over time. So you start off with a 0. It's what it is. I mean, as long as you've had a robust method, what it's saying is people are pretty neutral about you. People like you and dislike you, or they're fanatical and neutral about you in equal measure. What are you going to do about it? That's the key question with all this. So you should be identifying what the detractors are saying, because the follow-up question to Net Promoter Score is you've given us why do you give this score? What's the reason for your score? So that's as rich as the score itself. So you work on that over time. the idea of anonymous surveys is really dying off now. It's really good to know who these people are who are giving you the noughts to sixes, and you close the loop. And if you're a small business, you can call them, and you don't call them and say, "What the heck have you given me a 3 for or a naught?" You say, "I see you've given us a 3 or a naught. I'd really like to talk about how we could improve." And you can close the loop on that particular customer and identify their specific problem. But also, if you add together 5, 10, 20, 30 conversations, you begin to get a really good flavor of your organizational problems. So over time, you should be seeking to increase your net promoter score. And every industry and every business has its own range of scores. So Apple, for example, is about plus 60. High Street Bank, HSBC, is kind of minus 35. So you can see that there's a big range. But customer satisfaction is a relative issue. It's relative to you as a person. Some people just don't give 9s or 10s, ever. Also, you could have received a sync. Again, I don't want to go into territory I'm not really knowledgeable about, but supposing a single parent, for example, may be more grateful than someone who's got a supportive, more supportive family system at home, and so they may give you a higher score for exactly the same service. Someone who is maybe like I was, very active in sport, may just I love this. I'm going to give a higher score than someone who is, well, I'm at the start of my sporting journey. I wasn't sure about that. It was a bit uncomfortable. May score lower. So asking the same type of customers about the same service, the same question over time, is a real value in this. And it's not something you want to sort of really worry about too much comparing with other industries or, in fact, other competitors, I would say.
Brilliant, thank you. So our network and many listeners engages with primary schools and parents with the aim of getting more children more active. And keeping the schools and parents engaged and retaining them as a customer is key for them then reaching children and young people over time. Rather than prioritizing new business, which a lot of people might think is the right answer, why do you say it's important to prioritize customer experience?
Well, I think it's kind of a virtuous circle, really, Luke, here. That in
The phrase, "what gets measured gets managed," was coined by the American management consultant Pete Drucker over 40 years ago. Although there have been some alternatives to this phrase, one that resonates with me is "what gets measured gets improved."
In recent years, this alternative phrase has gained popularity, emphasising the idea that measuring progress is crucial to achieving improvement.
Scorecards are a great way to highlight your strengths and identify blind spots in your organisation while providing instant, actionable steps on how you can improve that needs improving.
So, how does your organisation measure up?
Head to capscorecard.scoreapp.com and take approximately 5 minutes to answer some yes/no questions. Once you've done that, you will get an instant personalised report tailored to your organisation with clear, actionable steps. And it's totally free.
That's capscorecard.scoreapp.com, and the link will be in the show notes too.
If you know the sort of schools world and education world, word of mouth is extremely powerful. I have 4 children, all adult now, but the power of the chat at the school gates is so powerful, and far more powerful than any advertising you can do. So, and again, it depends slightly on the type of catchment and children, but there are a number of things here. But there's a very practical one. Parents talk, children talk, and word of mouth will go out there about what they've been up to, what's been happening. And they first of all will mention the fact that they've actually just taken part in this activity, and that might trigger a conversation. So, what is the story they're telling? Because life is very much about telling stories. Are they telling great stories about the experience of the activity? So yeah, it was really easy to book. I spoke to them on the phone; they were fantastic. They really understood um, Joanna or Abdul's particular um, interests, or um, Fred was really shy, but they brought him out of himself. And these little stories are very powerful, and they will encourage more business. So that's why the customer experience is extremely valuable. The other thing is that if the more sort of wow factor, special things you can do during the activity, the more you will drive those positive conversations. The other thing is that people do, and this is kind of not the main aim, but it's part of life as well. People do like to show off a little bit, and they will kind of like to say how they've been to this fantastic thing, and how it's benefited their little ones, and so on. So there's all sorts of reasons to get positive buzz, positive stories, positive education out there. So that's kind of one simple reason why customer experience is important. Secondly, when it comes to renewal, um, you'll the renewal of either a short block of sessions, or one session, or an annual block of sessions, you're much more likely to get the right answer for you. You're much more likely to get the renewal if people have seen results. So customer experience is not just about being nice to people and being friendly. It's actually giving results, so that the actual customer value proposition works, so that the children are seeing health benefits. Your practitioners are really up to speed on good techniques. They're actually also measuring the outcome, maybe for the users and beneficiaries themselves. You will be less vulnerable to price competition, and also you'll provide a better, safer service, because the longer people are with you, the more loyal they're with you, the more they get to know the way you work, and the more they'll tie into to your systems and processes. So there's a whole raft of reasons why customer experience is good for the bottom line. I would never say don't promote. I would never say don't go out there and promote your business. But I think the balance should be, you should really get your customer experience right, and then you can promote great customer experience. I'll just give you a little story from my early days in business. When I want to get some funding, I called a bank that likes to say yes. They said no. I called the Action Bank, who actually arranged to come out and see me, who failed to turn up to the appointment. So yeah, there's a massive discrepancy between big business, what they promote, and what they actually deliver, and this is a big problem. And it's why customer experience is challenging, actually, because it works across all departments. It's important for your operations department, your technical department, your education department, your marketing department, your accountancy department. And again, as I said earlier, the bigger you get, the harder it is, because there's more silos and more dysfunctionality in the business. But the customer doesn't care about that. They just see their own personal journey.
Brilliant. And from your experience, Richard, what common mistakes do businesses fall into when they start to focus on customer experience, would you say?
Well, there's a really fantastic sporting analogy here, Luke, because it's the same mistake people make when they start their fitness programs. So if when do people join a gym? There's probably two main times. It's probably January, when they're a little bit into New Year's resolutions, and they think they probably overindulged in the December period, and they say, I'm going to join a gym. The other time is probably May, is they're thinking about, or April or May, the summer holidays coming up. They need a six-pack, so I better join a gym. So what happens, and there's a little curve going on here. At the beginning, motivation is high. We call it a new toy. Okay, so it's high. You get stuck in, and you start to feel a little bit better. You perhaps, ironically, the more energy you use, the more energetic you feel. It kind of gets everything going. You probably start sleeping better. But then maybe in January, if you're on the January intake, that sort of wears off a little bit, and instead of going 4 times a week, you maybe start going 3 times a week and twice a week. And I wonder what's happening in Coronation Street at the moment now. I'll just watch. I'll go tomorrow. So we start to delay a bit, and that motivation sort of drops off, and we become a little bit more apathetic. Um, and really, that's what happens in customer experience. But of course, as I mentioned, you get good results quite early with exercise. You get some really quick benefits, but long-term benefits. For example, that 6-pack. You're not going to get the 6-pack in August if you start in May, are you? You're talking 3 years, not 3 months. So at the beginning, you feel better. Customer experience, you feel better because you started this little initiative. People are chatting, but actually then work kicks in. Well, yeah, we had that training, didn't we? Yeah, well, that's done now. We did the customer service training. We don't need to do it anymore. Everyone's got that. And you've got another curve going on, which is quick wins, high results, but long-term gains over long term. So you've got the curve that's going from top left to bottom right, crossing the curve that's like a U-shaped curve, and so 70-80% projects fail at the bottom of that curve, where apathy hits, well, what's new around here. So just like the person who succeeds in the gym, which is again probably 20 to 30%, you'd need a lot of discipline, a lot of drive, and you need to keep it going. Now, it doesn't really matter what steps you've taken, what's appropriate for your business. Is it customer journey mapping? Is it surveying? Is it training? You've got to keep it going. And I find, even with my clients, I tell them all this at the beginning, and even then, there's a reason why they want to delay the training for a while, or maybe just cut down their aspirations on a new system. So really, it's that human nature that is the biggest issue. So I think people really know what they have to have a plan, a program, and stick to it. So customer experience transformation is like physical transformation, and I think that's the best advice. I wouldn't say they've failed in training or they've failed in systems, because there's so many variables we can't possibly know. But I think the overarching failure is this lack of ability to plan and see the plan through.
And we need people to develop habits. So I think it's like 2190, so it's like 21 or maybe 28 days to.
Yeah, 20. I think it's more like 28 days. Yeah, 28 days.
Yeah, and go back to the fitness analogy. Quite often you might see a 28-day 6-pack challenge, like you just said, and the reason people are doing that is to make sure that becomes a habit for the people doing it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then change that behaviour over that 90-day period. And that's something that I think a lot of people that run a small business in any sector, they have every intention to do it, but then it's like, like you say, I've got this to do, I've got that to do, we can't do that now because we've got limited budget. And I think another one, I think, from working with so many organisations in our sector is overwhelm. So I think people have every intention to do something, but they've also got this to do and that to do, and this is coming up tomorrow, and we've got to do X, Y, and Z next week. So people need to start somewhere. And we've been in this situation, and every small business has been in this situation, but you've got to take action. So if people do have excuses, and they are excuses, limited budget, limited time, what one thing from a customer experience perspective would you say? Don't delay, just crack on, get on with it, because it will make an impact in your business.
I think the biggest realization is just this: put yourself in the customer's shoes, and kind of when you're out and about spending your hard-earned money, just really think about what kind of service you're getting, because it's pretty lame in general, and it's actually getting worse, guys. We know from Institute of Customer Service national surveys, customer service is getting worse. So would you are you going to be proud of the service you're providing to your customers? Are you truly proud of it? Would you like your customers to experience some of the things that you experience out in the high street or online? And I think that's maybe the overall factor. but it's just you kind of got to be obsessed with it in a way. You really got to be obsessed with it. But it's really hard to break it down into one thing. It really is. But I think be proud of your service is the main thing, and what are people are saying about when you're not there. So it's all on the same theme. And in fact, I think Jeff Bezos of Amazon, he defined brand as what customers say about your business when you're not there. So that would probably be sort of a stumble. I think we might take that one again. I've gone around a few different things there. Are we okay to chop the last one since Paul asked me that one?
Yeah,
again.
fine. Yeah.
Is that all right? The other thing, while we're just chatting, it also like the opportunity just to say a little bit about what and how, if that's okay.
Yeah.
Is that okay? Right. Okay. So, okay. So one thing, Paul, is quite challenging because there's so many moving parts in customer experience. Just before I answer the question, I just want to explain a very simple concept of customer experience because it's kind of what you do and how you do it. Example of this is probably many listeners have bought a house over time. I doubt anyone listening has had their house repossessed because the solicitor got it wrong. Technically did a good job. However, how many of the listeners would be a promoter, linking back to Net Promoter Score, would give their solicitor 9 or 10 out of 10 for the way, or 9 or 10 out of 10, sorry, 9 or 10 out of 10 on the recommendation scale. And I usually find that these people have a fairly low Net Promoter Score. Why are they detractors if they own their house? Well, the solicitor didn't communicate with them. The solicitor needed prodding and pushing. Maybe the bill wasn't quite what was quoted. So this is how. So customer experience is what we do, so-called technical quality. It's how we do it, so-called functional quality. And customer satisfaction is driven by how, functional quality. Customer dissatisfaction is driven by what, technical quality. So it's really important to realize that it's not only what you do, it's how you do it. Now, what's the one thing that would drive an organization to really improve customer experience? Well, I think it's putting yourself in the customer's shoes. When you go out and maybe spend your own hard-earned money, what experience are you getting? What and how? What generally is okay. How is really variable. It's quite lame. And in fact, customer experience or satisfaction with experience is declining in the UK in general. So I think the one thing is put yourself in the customer's shoes and then flip that and be really, really proud of your service and say you actually want your customers who are spending their hard-earned money to just have a great experience and be prepared to do what it takes to deliver that.
Great stuff. One thing for me as well, I've just been sat here listening to you and intrigued as ever. And if I reflect back on our journey and working with you and your team, what one thing helped us continue and thrive for that six pack, if you like, was I guess empowering people. So for any business owners out there that are like, where do I start? There's a great tip there from Richard, and always put yourself in the customer's shoes, but also don't try and do it all yourself. So if you've got a small team, there'll be one person in that team that would love to take on a little bit of responsibility and actually drive this forward. And we're getting on to free tips now. Don't try and do everything at once. Would be another tip from our experience as well.
Well, yeah, you see, you start thinking about Paul, and you immediately realise it's there's so much going on, so many moving parts, as I said earlier. But I probably, in however long we've had, which is not terribly long, we can't cover everything. But you just raised a really important part there about employee engagement, because that's where it starts. Service outside the organisation never exceeds service inside the organisation. So you must start with making sure your people really enjoy coming to work. And if they enjoy coming to work, they'll be they'll provide a much better experience, because this human interaction is very, very important. Let me ask you guys a question. The Royal Mail does a lot of stuff, doesn't it? Delivers about 18 billion letters and parcels items a year. When Royal Mail do customer satisfaction surveys, what's the overriding factor which creates high satisfaction or low satisfaction?
Delivery success, I'll go for.
Okay, what's yours, Paul? Price of stamps?
Yeah, I'd go time. So if you're expecting a delivery to arrive on a certain day at a certain time period, there's nothing more frustrating than if it's delivered when you're not in.
Okay. So the factor which correlates most strongly with satisfaction with Royal Mail is your relationship with your postie.
I don't think I even know who he is.
But that's your case. Yeah. Across the nation, there's a lot of data here, and the single most correlating factor is relationship with your postie drives high customer satisfaction. Now, a lot of people don't know their postie, but a lot of people, more people do. And this is the human aspects of customer experience. In fact, it's probably why it's really called experience. So there's so many research pieces that say human interaction is vital, but human interaction can't do everything where processes and systems are concerned. But interaction with people, particularly in your environment, guys, where you've got teachers, pupils, parents, you're in the thick of it, aren't you? You're delivering a service. Human interaction. So we all think we're good with people, don't we? We all think we're above average at dealing with people, but of course, by definition, we can't all be above average. So training people in personal skills, soft skills, is a really good place to start too.
Brilliant. Thank you, Richard. We ask the final couple of questions we're going to go through at the end of every pod. So if listeners listening to this podcast with you wanted to enhance their customer experience, knowledge and skills, what 3 books, podcasts or people would you recommend?
Okay. Well, I think the books, someone who's written quite a few technical books on the subject, which I always like, is a chap called Colin Shaw. So Google Colin Shaw, stuff's available on Amazon and stuff. He's written some really good technical things about customer experience. There's a number of podcasts out there. One of the good ones is called CX Chat. Less technical books, but very readable. The Richer Way by Julian Richer, who's done the Wi-Fi audio-visual chain, is really good. And he's had an interesting journey because, of course, he started off very much in a retail bricks and mortar, and now he's more over to clicks. Interesting stories, Metro Bank, which I would have told you about all those years ago, but this weekend we see they've been refinanced. So there's quite a good one, Fans Not Customers by Vernon Hill, who founded the Metro Bank. So there's quite a lot of reading there, but I also would suggest that customer experience is a slice of life. It's about human interaction. It's about transactions. So look everywhere. The speech radio is a really good place. Radio 4, there's all sorts of psychology programs and things like that, which is good. Just keep your eyes and ears open out on the streets. Look what people are doing that's working well. Look what people are doing which doesn't work well, and see if you could just bring that into your business. Apply it in your business. So keep your eyes and ears open. On Radio 4, I heard a really good program. It was a psychology series, and I heard that in the States there was a very large nursing home, and they did it was a psychology experiment where on one floor they told the residents that there was a cinema being introduced, and they told half the people they could go on a Tuesday. They told half the people they could go on a Thursday. a floor up, which is kind of same number of residents, they said, right, we've got a cinema coming. Do you want to go on a Tuesday or do you want to go on a Thursday? And the way these things worked, it worked out roughly the same 50-50. And there were other things they did. It wasn't just a cinema experience, but they gave one floor a choice and another floor no choice. And the health outcomes of the people who had a choice were much better. And this again is the power of psychology in customer experience. So just keep your eyes and ears open across the board, I would say, as well as those specific ones that I've mentioned.
Amazing. And what would you say the one thing is, Richard, that organisations working with schools, parents, young people need to do to crack the active code and get more children more active more often?
Okay, so we've got this challenge of the one thing. I'm a sort of big listener of speech radio, and there's a chap called Michael Mosley got on there. He's got a program at the moment saying just one thing, and I think he's on about the 20th episode of just one thing. So it was drinking tea, eating tomato ketchup, sleeping. Just one thing is so hard. But if I was to say just one thing, it is, make sure everybody enjoys it, so that the youngsters actually participating in the activity, they enjoy it. And I've had my kids through Saturday morning football and tennis and all that. Just cut the competitive nonsense at the young age. Have you enjoyed it? And just get everyone focusing on enjoyment. So doesn't matter what level you performed at, did you enjoy it? But the same applies to your business experience. So the teachers or the parents booking, did they enjoy booking with you, or were you difficult to deal with? So enjoy doing business, but also enjoy the experience of staying active and cracking the active code.
Amazing. Thank you, Richard. And if listeners want to reach out, connect with you, hear about more about what Customer Plus do, where can they get in touch?
Well, our website is www.customerplus.co.uk, so you can contact me through there. I think my name will probably be written up somewhere on the on the details of this podcast. So yeah, Google me. Love to hear from you. And interesting, I was just telling you before we started, I've just started a new venture, which is a hotel, which is going to test my customer experience skills. So we're actually going to be running a lot more in-house customer experience programs. And in fact, we run them together with you, don't we? So maybe look out for one of those soon. So we'll be running customer experience programs up in Derby. So you come and join us and check out our hotel facilities.
Well,
see if we can walk the walk as well as we can talk the talk.
That's exactly what I was just going to say. We'll kind of step into the customer shoes and give you some feedback, Richard.
Yes, please.
No, thank you so much for your time. It's been, I think we probably do need to do another episode at some point, because we could delve a lot deep on several topics. But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your experience, your expertise with us and with listeners. I think the big takeaways for me are making sure that you really do put yourself in the customer's shoes and you listen to your customers, and don't be afraid to shamelessly steal from other sectors. And we've done that several times. It might be going out to a nice restaurant. It could be just going down to your local store in your town and just thinking, do you know what? That's a really nice way of actually presenting something or dealing with a potential issue or complaint. And we could actually borrow that and put that in our business and put that step in. So yeah, that's definitely a tip from me. But yeah, thanks again, Richard. Know you're a busy man, and best of luck with your new venture.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Richard.
So thanks for having me, Luke. Thanks for having me, Paul, and good luck with cracking the active code for more and more people. Thank you.